I do get a lot of engagement in the chat, and you can see that the chat just blows up. So welcome to Teachers Need Teachers. I'm Kim Lapre, and normally I have a podcast called the Teachers Need Teachers podcast. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. Coming over from the podcast, thank you for supporting me. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because I am going to do some of these regularly. I'm going to be posting me teaching, actually teaching sometimes, and doing some commentary on that, so that not only am I, telling you about these issues via the podcast, I wanted to show you what it sometimes looks like in real life. And something that I'm going to try to do on a semi-regular basis is give you some insight into how I actually teach and give you some tips. So in this first one today, I wanted to show you how it is that I do my distance teaching. Now, a lot of you are back doing some kind of hybrid teaching, and frankly, I'm kind of jealous. I miss being in the classroom. So I am actually on a floor chair in my bedroom. I can't teach in the living room because my daughter is in school in her room, and apparently I'm loud, and so I don't want her to hear me. The desk that I have, it's kind of small and it doesn't really fit my laptop and my iPad. My room also doubles as my YouTube studio for my other channel called Your Own Damn Way, and so I just don't have a lot of room for that. I've been doing this setup since the beginning of quarantine, where I've been sitting on the floor teaching, except 1 to 2 months into quarantine, when we first started distance learning, I realized I needed something to sit on. So I got this floor chair that has been awesome. I do have a pillow behind me for some lumbar support, but the floor chair has really been helpful. I'll put a link to that in the description box if you're curious about that. It just makes it so that I can pretty much teach anywhere without needing a setup. I also have a floor desk that I've purchased, and my daughter has one as well. She sits on the floor too in her room when we're learning, and I have all kinds of stuff around me. I have snacks, I have my water, sometimes I have my cats around me, and I just want you to know that no matter what your setup is, no matter where you're teaching, all that matters is that you show up. That's all that the students really want to see. So one thing that I'm really happy about is that I get a lot of engagement from my students via the chat. If I let them all unmute, they would all be engaged just talking into the microphones, but I only let them unmute if they raise their hand, their virtual hand, and pretty much nobody is turning on their camera in my class. I do get a lot of engagement in the chat, and you can see that the chat just blows up. And one of the ways that I get so much engagement is I do a would you rather, 1 to 2 would you rathers at the start of each class, and that just kind of gets the conversation going. Would you rather eat broccoli flavored ice cream or meat flavored cookies? I think they're both gross, personally. Let's see, we have meat. Cookies. I would honestly probably go with the ice cream. If you like broccoli cheddar soup, like the kind that they have at Panera, just broccoli flavored ice cream and put some cheddar cheese on top, Okay, this next one is super duper creepy. Are you ready? Oh, I don't even want to think about this one. I hate it so much. Okay, here we go. Would you rather eat 1 live poisonous spider or have 50 non-poisonous spiders crawl on you all at once? And I've had students tell me that they look forward to these would you rathers every day because they just want to know what kind of crazy one I have today. And they really like to think of ridiculous things, the ridiculous types of justifications that they have to give for their answers. So it gets pretty funny sometimes in the chat as people argue. And then I always give my opinion and my justification. So we get to know each other. It's just really created a strong bond between my students and me. And I think that that's also one of the reasons why I get so much engagement in my classes. Now, probably a lot of you use the gradual release method where you do an example with the students and they participate, or maybe you just completely model it for them. I'm going to switch it then. Instead of essential, I'm going to put are necessary as well as being essential to our overall health. If we were in the classroom, I would model it for them. Then they would do it in their groups, and then they would complete an activity by themselves, and that's the one that I would grade. So I don't really trust the breakout groups in here, and from what I've heard, that regardless if it's in Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or whatever, that kids aren't necessarily really participating. What I am doing instead is I have them do one with me. So we're writing the paragraph and I'm giving them the explanations. And part of the reason why I'm doing the explanations and modeling it is so that they can hear my thought process. I think it's really important for your kids to hear you think out loud. And it's so easy for us to just like do something quickly, especially let's say that you're a math teacher, you're just like doing it quickly in your head. But the thinking out loud, the whole meta process really teaches students how to think like whatever your subject is. So I want them to think like a writer in my class. And so my modification for distance learning is now they're going to complete the second paragraph on their own, but we're gonna drop those screenshots of the second paragraphs in the chat tomorrow. And I'm gonna go and look at a couple of them and discuss a couple of them for the class. And then that way they can hear my feedback on those. So I'm not gonna grade them, but I do wanna see and give feedback on some of them. And then they're gonna do a third one in class by themselves, and that's the one that they're going to submit for a grade. Now, some of the ways that I can tell that students aren't doing the work on their own is by some of the questions that they ask. I had a student today ask if he could see the first part with the first quote because he wanted to copy it down. And I said, well, no, you should have already done that. That was homework before. And I told him where he could find it. To me, that signals that he didn't do it on his own. If you can get your students to participate in the chat, you can kind of like feel out whether or not they are doing the assignments at home. I also have periodic checks where I tell them, okay, so what we just did in class today, take a screenshot and submit that. Submit whatever you have done. This is just a check and it counts towards their participation grade. I would suggest that you do that just to kind of check in on them. It's not a way to punish them, but for the kids who consistently aren't participating, then you can pull them aside, have them come to your office hours, or you can email them directly. I've even gone as far as to call some of them and to say, hey, I noticed that, whenever we do a check, you don't have your work done. What's going on? What can I help you with? Am I going too fast? I had a student tell me that I was going too fast and I wouldn't have known unless I did those checks. I'm not going to assume that the student is just slacking off because there's no work done. It could just be me. But then there's also that balance where you don't want to go too slow and wait too long. Just raise your virtual hand so I know if you're not done. And then you can lower it when you are done. Now in the classroom, you can gauge if students are done or not because they look up when they're done. But online you can't. So I have to be careful that I'm not taking too long, because if a bunch of them are waiting too long all the time for you to move on to the next point, that's when they get distracted and their mind wanders and they do something else. They decide, oh yeah, so after every time she asks us to do something, it's gonna take 5 minutes, I can go get a snack or something like that. You wanna also still maintain your pace. So I hope you got value from this today. If there are any issues that you're struggling with in terms of your teaching that you'd like me to address in a future episode, please let me know in the comments below. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you are someone who is at a point in your life where you are making big changes and you're kind of scared and you've been living a life based on other people's expectations, be sure to check out my other YouTube channel called Your Own Damn Way, where I go twice a week and talk about struggles and obstacles that you may face in making these big changes, and fears and self-limiting beliefs, and how we can push past that so that we can live our dream life. And if you know someone who needs to see this video because they are also struggling, or they're curious how other teachers are doing online learning, go ahead and share this with them. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next video.